Cool. All right. Well, Cody Jefferson, welcome to the podcast, man. Thanks for hopping on.
Oh man, it's so good to be here.
Yeah. And so I figured we could start off if you just want to give the audience an idea of like what was your upbringing like? Like what was Cody like as a little kid? You were running around and sort of what was that part of your life like?
Okay, so I grew up in rural Oklahoma. So my brother and I, we were rowdy, right? So if you can imagine, we grew up fairly humble, right? So we grew up in a small town in Oklahoma, rural, on 12 acres in a single bedroom trailer. It wasn't TV, it wasn't anything of that. We grew up with animals. I was raised in part by my grandparents because I was raised by a single father who put everything he had into raising us, which meant that he worked a lot. Yeah. And so my upbringing was that of living with my dad, and my mom was still involved.
Right.
My parents divorced at a very young age, and then being raised a great deal by my grandparents, which gave me also a different perspective of relationship and of work ethic and of spirituality. Grandfather was a deacon in the Baptist church, and the Southern Baptist Church, was president of the Oklahoma Gospel Singing Association. So on most weekends, you could find us at gospel singing conventions, me playing the piano and them singing. And so it was a very interesting and beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have what most had, but I would say that I had things that others didn't. So
Yeah. I mean, what were some of the biggest, like if you look back on your life today, I know you said it was impactful to see the way your dad worked, and then obviously some of these things with your grandpa. What would you say were some of like the lessons that you've carried with that into your life?
Man. All right, so I'm going to tell you the most important lesson my grandfather ever taught me. So when I was 9, I had this girl that I was sweet on, and her name was Stephanie, and I was fairly certain I was going to marry Stephanie. But like, I'm not going to lie, like our pinkies, we were watching Never Ending Story, our pinkies crossed each other. Listen, so at that age, man, that's it. It was game over, right? Like I knew she was the one. Listen, she was my Winnie Cooper. She was my Topanga. Like she was it. And my grandmother had this pendant, and I thought, man, Stephanie would love this. So we were cleaning out my grandmother's jewelry cabinet, and I just happened to slip it in my pocket. And the problem about that is I'm a horrible thief. I left it in my pocket, and at that time, I went to my mom's, and she found it in my pocket. She asked where I got it, so she proceeded to call my dad. I told my dad that my grandmother gave it to me, which of course she did not. And so my dad, listen, my dad's big thing is I'll always be on your side as long as you tell me the truth.
Love that.
Honesty is a big thing for my dad, and it was for my grandfather as well. And my dad takes me straight to my grandmother, and he says, okay, I want you to tell her what happened. So my grandmother took me into the bedroom, and I was supposed to tell her everything that happened. And so I gave it back to her, and I apologized, and I came back out, and my dad said, did you tell her that you stole it? And I said, I did. And she said, no, you didn't. And there was this feeling of shame and abandonment. And why didn't you have my back? You always have my back. Why didn't you have my back? Yeah. And feeling like just completely low. It just couldn't get any lower for me. I felt like I had let everybody down, like I just didn't deserve love anymore. Like that was the amount of
intense.
My grandfather pulled me into the bedroom, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get the belt. I mean, it's a different time, right? Like, so, but he sat me down and he said, Cody, what's your name? And I said, it's Cody. And he said, no, what's your full name? Michael Cody Jefferson. He said, you're a Jefferson. Jeffersons don't steal. Jeffersons don't lie. Jeffersons operate in integrity. Now you have done things that are outside of who we are, but outside of anything that you do, understand that your identity remains the same. And it was the first time in my life I had ever felt fully known, fully exposed, and fully loved. And I've carried that with me throughout everything that I do. And I was in ministry for 13 years. I was a youth pastor for 10 years,
Yeah.
a worship pastor, a teaching pastor, executive. I mean, any kind of pastor you
Yeah.
put
All
put
of
a name in front of it. I did it. And it wasn't to me about always being right. It wasn't always about having the right things to say or the proper belief system or orthodox belief system. It was, I see you, and no matter what you've done, no matter what you might say about yourself, I know who you are because you've been given a name that you can't outrun.
Hmm.
And that's been the basis of everything that I do and in what I do now, right? Is to call people back, that kind of Mufasa moment of remember who you are.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we move from this, I could imagine like from that day
Yeah.
forward, even, right? Everything started to change and how you looked at life, how you perceived life.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious for you, when did, I'm guessing you maybe started being a youth pastor. When did all that sort of come into your life?
Yeah. So I wish there was this really cool, like moment, this really like burning bush moment. There wasn't. So I was kind of I was a good student. I mean, I did really well in school, but I was kind of a shitbag. I don't know if we can use profanity on the show.
You're good.
Cool. But I was just the know-it-all, right? By the time I hit my teenage years, listen, I was into a lot of dumb things, mostly because I was bored and because I didn't really fit in. Some of your listeners will know exactly what that is. I was in a small town where everybody was 6 foot and an athlete, and I'm 5'6" and play classic piano. Like it was just, and I was really good at school, but I didn't want to be good at school because I just wanted to be like everybody else.
Yeah.
Everybody else made C's, and I would try and I couldn't. Like still A's.
Dang.
And you would think that'd be a really cool thing, but where I was from, it just wasn't. And I just didn't fit in. And so I took to some recreational activities, trying to dumb myself and numb myself, and kind of turned my back on the whole idea of organized religion. And I was managing a garage in high school. So while I was in high school, I was also going to tech to get my certification as a mechanic. I would then go to college and then also get my license to be a barber. So I've got a lot of pieces of paper.
Yeah.
And all that I don't do anything with now, but they were useful. They all served a purpose. But when I was managing a garage, the owner would always try to get me to go to church. Well, nah, I already got it. I already know what that is. I'm not interested in singing hymns and doing all those things on Sunday mornings. So will you go get coffee with me on a Saturday night? And so I did, and it ended up being a church. I was like, you son of a,
for sure.
Bait and switch.
For sure.
And if we're being real, I loved the community. I loved the pastor. He was cool. He had been kicked out of school like I had. He knew there was a call in his life for something greater, but he just didn't quite fit in to everything else that everybody said. He loved Harleys. I worked on Harleys. I grew up on bikes. Like, I'm like, this guy gets it.
He's like your brother.
Badass.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a stick up his ass. Like, okay, I can do that. I can do this for sure. And so we started hanging out. Within a few months, he saw something in me that I knew was there, but I didn't really see for myself, and I wasn't ready for it. Listen, they put me on the stage before I was ever ready to be put on the stage. I just had a heart about me. I had a decent look about me. I could play guitar. I could sing. I was charismatic. And back in the early 2000s, that's really all you needed to be a part of a mega church. And that's how it started. I was good at it. I loved being on stage. I loved communicating. I loved teaching. I loved seeing lives changed. I loved being there for people, which would then later turn into a really dark addiction to affirmation and to approval, and into equating my worth with my value to the church and my usefulness to the people of the church, which led to a really, really hard downward spiral.
Yeah. So let's say we go back for a sec before we jump into that kind of intense moment. So you had this person that came into your life that, you sort of knew what you wanted to do with your life, weren't really sure, kind of going through life. I
was working in a garage and in school for music. Right?
I'm curious for you, what do you think is the importance of finding a way to surround yourself with people that maybe see some of these things you don't see in yourself? Because, if you didn't meet that guy, it's like, truthfully, who knows where you'd be today?
Yeah, that pastor, his name is Eastman Curtis.
Hmm.
He saw something in me that I think he saw in himself, and
Hmm.
it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't said yes. And the owner of the garage that I was managing, he was bold enough to continue asking me, right? And this has nothing to do with like inviting people to church. This is just
Right.
putting yourself in a position where you are surrounded with people who see something in you and can call out greatness in you. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, I was talking to someone last night who was frustrated with some of the work of our industry because it can feel like a bit of a show, and everybody is just using everyone. And there are names that get dropped, and there are names that get talked about, and I'm fortunate that a lot of these people I don't know personally, and the reason
Yeah.
is I don't need to. I have an extraordinary group of friends, a close circle of men that I surround myself with who are high achievers. I mean,
Yeah.
incredibly high achievers, great men, great fathers, great husbands, and they pull me up every single day as iron sharpens iron. And
Yeah.
it's absolutely critical. Is it when I was a youth pastor, I always say, show me your friends and I'll show you who you're
Your
going to
future.
be. But yeah, absolutely. But, show me who you surround yourself with, whether that be your peer circle, whether it be your mentors, whether it be the same people at the bar you go hang out with every single Friday night. And I'll show you where you're going to be in 5 years from now. It's absolutely critical.
Dang. What would you say would be some advice you'd have for those that are like, all right, I'm trying to level up. I'm trying to get around these better people, but I don't know where the heck they are. Like, would you have any advice on how they could find them or get around them?
So here's what's crazy. A couple of my really close friends live here in Tulsa. The majority of my closest friends live in California,
Huh.
in Oregon, and in Tennessee.
Hmm.
And we all met on the internet. All of us. We all met on the internet. One of my best friends in the world, his name is John Morgan. Dude is a legend.
Yeah.
We met on Instagram. We just started following each other randomly. And other friends that I've met with in different communities, I use a software called ClickFunnels that several others use, and we've connected, and I have served them in some capacity. They've served me in some capacity. Some of these circles I've bought into, like you pay to play. Like,
Yeah.
I won't be able to get around you until I invest in some sort of mastermind, until I put my money where my mouth is and I show you that I want to invest in myself just as much as you want to invest in yourself. So I want to get into the circle because I know
For sure.
if I can get in, I'm a cool hang. I know that. And I
Yeah.
know I have things to offer. So all I've got to do is get myself inside the circle.
Mm.
And it's getting creative. For me, it was going to conferences and then speaking at conferences and speaking at events and getting to know others in my industry. And now, with my friend circle, we Zoom every single week,
Yeah.
or we FaceTime every single week individually.
Yeah.
Talk to every single one of my friends every single week. Is it in person? No. It's people who say I can't find people in my hometown. That's a cop-out.
Yeah.
Literally, we've never been more connected. So find where those people are hanging out. Find where those people are spending their time. Find where they're investing their time and their resources. And if you're serious, then you need to do the same to show that you're like, if you want to hang out with a certain circle, you need to bring yourself up to that level to be seen. Doesn't mean you have to be on that level, but you
Right.
have to bring yourself up to be seen.
Yeah. I love that. So like step one would be, where the heck are these people?
Where are
Step,
they?
yeah. So find them. And then step
Yeah.
two is whether you need to like invest into a group or a mastermind,
Sure.
like find some way somehow to just
Yeah.
get into that circle, into
And
that
it could be,
conversation.
when all of this lifts up and we start running conferences again, right? Is it certain conferences, right? I know you're deeply connected with Tony Robbins. So there
Yeah.
are people that go to, UPW and Business Mastery and all, like, that these are going to be your people
For sure.
because they are coming for this. They're coming for different reasons, but they're coming for the same experience.
Yeah.
And they're coming to let go, to shed, to evolve, to become, to belong, to believe in something.
Yeah.
And so what I tell people all the time is it's not about knowing everyone in the room. If you can deeply connect with 2, 3 people, listen, I can count the number of close friends on one hand.
Yeah.
But my life is so full and so rich because I would rather have 5 ride or die than 50,000 bullshit people on Instagram who don't give
Yeah.
anything about who
Damn.
I am or what I do.
Yeah. So let's say you create this initial relationship. How do you
Yeah.
go from this initial interaction to like the ride or die? Like how does that sort of, I'm sure it's different for everybody, but how does that
Yeah.
sort of look?
That's a really good question. Time. Time, conversation, and value. Okay? For me, I as much as if I'm going to be friends with someone, if I want that to be a brotherhood or a sisterhood, whatever it is,
Yeah.
I want to know that I'm contributing. I don't want to be a leech.
Yeah. Big time.
So I want to know that I'm contributing. So I'm going to do everything I can to add value to this person in a very, very real, genuine way to me. Right. I was in ministry for almost 2 decades. So that's not foreign to me. Speaking into people's lives, sowing seeds of encouragement, of gratitude and of appreciation. That's not uncommon for me. So helping people, again, feel seen, helping people not feel used. What can you do to help meet a need? Where can you invest, right? To show that you want to play on that level. Again, in whatever it is.
Right.
Right. And so for me, it was just, when we talk about the law of attraction, not to get super woo, but we talk about, every morning I ask myself a question: what needs to die in me to become the man that I said that I would be? I said that as I was waking up from being 3 days unconscious, dying from sepsis in 2016. And it's a question I ask myself every single day. What needs to die in me to become the man that I said that I would be? What needs to die in me to become the man I said I would be? That means that I have to assume that I am, not that I will be. And for so many of us, we start to speak like, okay, well, one day I'm going to be successful. One day I'm going to be on their level. And one day I'm going to be able to say something to them. Or one day why not today? Because the someday doesn't exist.
For real.
Right? Just because your bank account might not reflect it doesn't mean that your ethics, your personality, your skill sets, doesn't mean those can't reflect it. Right? Doesn't mean that your life experience and the ways in which you approach people can't reflect that.
Right.
So we have to seek to embody that which we desire in the present. And I have to ask myself every single day, who do I need to become today?
Yeah.
Who is it today that's going to serve my wife most powerfully, that's going to serve my children most powerfully, that's going to serve myself most powerfully, that's going to serve clients most powerfully, that's going to show up with authority, but also with humility?
Right.
Who do I need to become to attract the life that I say I deserve and desire?
Dang. Love that. Okay, so let's go back to your story then, right? So
All right, let's go back.
You're becoming a pastor, you're doing all this stuff. You said for about 13 years you've been doing this. And so what does that transition sort of look like as you like you said, became addicted to affirmation, some of these other things, and kind of went into the spiral?
Yeah, it looks like a shit show. It looks like an absolute shit show. So I'm doing my thing. I'm in ministry. I'm getting confused because I was in it for so long. And listen, I loved it. It was an amazing season of life. I loved the people, all of my students. When I stepped out of ministry, I confused a lot of people because I went so far the opposite. Because I think when you're in it for so long, sometimes there's so much pain and frustration and confusion, and you'll hear this more in the story, but sometimes you just swing really far the other way, and then you find the pendulum kind of finds its way back to center. But from 19 right? From 19 all the way through my 20s and into my 30s, I was in ministry, and I was deeply committed to the church. While I was in the church, I got married, and that didn't slow me down at all. So while in the church, while serving in ministry as a pastor, I was traveling, I was speaking, I was playing music all over the country, and working when I was at home, 14 to 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
Because it's God. And if God's the most important thing, then my job's the most important thing. And my family should just understand that. And this is the call on my life. I don't know why you can't understand that. Stop trying to keep me from doing what God has called me to do. Right? Again, in my head, I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
But then some things started to shift, and the pressure got higher. I moved to a different church that placed a lot of pressure on me with no affirmation, and nothing was ever good enough. And when you're someone who needs that affirmation, it put me downward into a spiral. And so at night I started drinking to try and cope. It wasn't that I was trying to become an alcoholic or anything. It was just, I just needed to numb things. I was frustrated. I couldn't do enough. And at the end of 2015, I had had a son in 2014, and his mother came to me and said, "Hey, I want a divorce. I'm not in love with you, seeing someone else." And that's that. Didn't see it coming, probably should have, but didn't. I had my head too far up my own ass, right? Confusing it with God's. And everything hit a tailspin because I knew we weren't happy, but I was so focused on creating this perfect Pinterest, Instagram lifestyle and showing everybody how great everything was all the time. And we can't be upset at the church. We can't do this at the church, and everything needs to be perfect. And like, I know we fought on the way, but you're going to, we got to straighten up. We got to go in now.
Yeah. Dang.
And then the bottom fell out. And then a series of events happened, and I won't go into all of it because it's a lot. We reach a threshold of what we can kind of hear and understand. But I will say that 2 weeks later, my 18-month-old niece was murdered. From there, a series of deaths and suicides and drug overdoses, a best friend of 17 years, a mentor of 15 years, a 19-year-old sister, just a string of 8 losses in the course of 8 months. Buried my best friend, and I'm leading all the funerals, by the way, because I'm the guy.
Yeah.
Still trying to show up, still trying to be all things to all people. Can't process the trauma. There's just too much. Like, it's literally every month someone super close to me, like I'm talking super close to me, is dying. It doesn't make sense. I don't know up from down. I don't know where the hell God is in all this bullshit. And I'm still trying to hold on to my faith. And I'm like, God, if this is faith, I don't want it. What the what? I've prayed all the right prayers. I've done all the right shit. Like, this doesn't make sense. I'm in marriage counseling. I'm going. Nobody else is going. What the fuck? And my body shut down. One night, 106 fever, going in and out of consciousness, go to the hospital. He's going septic. And 3 days later, 20 pounds lighter, I wake up and I recognize I can't do this anymore. Like, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so a couple months go by, and I approach my community and say, hey, we need to part ways. Like, it's not you, it's me. Right. But we had undergone a lot of transition within the community. So I wanted to give them 6 months. I thought, we need this for the church. Like, we need to give this some time. I've been here a long time. We need to give this some time. Because of the way that they wanted to move the direction, which is totally fine. We agreed 6 months on a Tuesday. That Thursday, it was, we'll just go ahead and see you later now. Like, we'll just figure it out. Don't worry about it.
Dang.
Which threw everything into a tailspin. And some of your listeners will understand because over the past few months, you've had everything turned upside down. Your job that you thought was secure is now gone. I
Yeah.
was left with no identity. It's all I'd done my entire adult life. Who am I if I'm not a pastor? Who am I if I'm not a husband? Who am I if I'm not these things? And that's where Embrace the Lion was born, right? Like I was looking for something to guide me through to this next part of my journey. I had lost the community that I had. I didn't have any friends anymore, didn't have anything anymore. I couldn't find it in any kind of church material. Like I wasn't looking for some sort of Kirk Cameron bullshit platitude. I didn't need to go and be yelled at by someone and go through like a Navy SEAL training. That's not what I needed. I just needed someone to walk alongside me. And when I couldn't find that, I created it. And that's where we are today.
Yeah. So what's that process look like then, right? So you gone in this tailspin, everything in life sort of like, I don't know what way is what way. Like where was the base of where you started to sort of like rebuild it, honestly, in a sense, like who you were in the sense of a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I recognized that what I had done for the past 13 years didn't work. It wasn't working.
Yeah.
The ways in which I was approaching my own life, the ways in which I was putting everyone before myself, the ways that I had become a yes man and addicted to affirmation and pleasing people and doing what I thought everybody wanted, that just wasn't working.
Yeah.
And so I set out to redefine myself. I recognized that, okay, if all of these people are probably going to go away anyways, because if I'm not a part of this community anymore, then we're not going to hang out anymore. I'm going to redefine who I am. And so over the course of 6 months, I started reading every book on personal development I could get my hands on, because for the past 13 years, it had been all theology and leadership. So I had those two in the bag.
Yeah.
Right? But I didn't know me. I knew who I thought God wanted me to be.
Right.
I knew who I thought my community wanted me to be and who my pastors wanted me to be. I knew all of that, but that wasn't me anymore.
Yeah.
And so I set on this journey, reading everything I could, reading every Tony Robbins book I could, adhering myself to a Hal Elrod lifestyle of miracle morning, of these really robust habits. And over the period of 6 months, I put on like 35 pounds, grew a beard, finished out my sleeves, got tattoos on my hands and knuckles and everywhere else. And started to talk differently, started to walk differently, started to act differently, started to become the version of me that was no longer weak.
Yeah.
Was no longer not in control. That was no longer a yes man. That no longer gave a shit what you thought about me, what you thought about what I believed, whether you agree with me, disagree with me. I don't care I just don't care anymore. And here we are.
Yeah. So let's say someone else is going through something similar where, like, I know one thing you talk about is you were trying to sort of build yourself into this person you thought other people wanted you to be. Eventually you got to the point you said, I'm not doing this crap. This
almost
doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm not stoked, not happy,
right.
Hospital, all of it. Right. Yeah. So let's say there's someone else that's tried to build this life in accordance to what someone else's want for them. And they're listening to this right now and they're going, honestly, Cody, your stories made me realize I'm sick of this. I'm not doing this anymore. Like, what advice would you give to them on how they could sort of figure out the way that they can restructure themselves to fit the story of who they believe they are?
Tell the truth. Get really, 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 really honest with yourself. I'm talking brutally honest. Like brutally honest. Like it's grit. It is tell the fucking truth. Like tell the truth. Get honest. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Because if you feel like you're out at sea right now and you feel like you're treading water and you feel like you're about to drown, understand there's not a damn person that's going to offer you a life preserver other than yourself. You are the one that created the ocean. You are the one drowning in your own turmoil. It's you. It's you. Everything in this life is a result of the decisions, the choices, both conscious and unconscious, that you make on a daily basis. And you need to get really, really honest about what you want, why you want it, and are the actions that you are taking, are they aligning with what you say that you want? If you find yourself in this position, the answer is obviously no.
Yeah.
But the problem with being in the bottle is you can't read the label on the outside. So you're going to need to find someone that can help you read the label and come in and help you out of the bottle so that you can see the label for what it is.
Yeah.
That's the beauty about mentorship, about coaching, about consulting, about being a pastor, about being a leader, about being a dad, about any of these roles, is that we get to objectively look at the outside and say, hey, I understand because I've been in there. I get it. I understand. Yeah. You don't right now. That's the shitty part about awareness, is you can't manufacture it. You can't lead somebody to it before they're ready for it.
Yeah.
Awareness has to happen for the individual. And so for you right now, if you're listening and you're hearing this and you're saying, this is me, then I would ask you to ask yourself a series of questions. Who are you? Where are you? And I don't mean geographically, where are you? I mean, where are you in this life right now? Where are you? And what is real?
Yeah.
What is real? And not what you think is real. Like, what is really real? You can have facts and you can have feelings, but you cannot have both. Get real about where you're at right now and why you're there. What are the thoughts, the habits, the patterns, the decisions, the actions created over and over and over that have led you to this place that you are currently?
Yeah.
And if they are no longer serving you, then it's time to create a new path. It's time to get very honest. Now, again, you're going to have to find someone that's going to help you. Why? Well, because your brain is going to convince you of every reason why you shouldn't. Because the brain in physics, it's called the principle of least path. Light follows it. Water follows it. Brain doesn't care whether you're happy, sad, fat, skinny, rich, poor. It doesn't care. All it cares about is patterns. And you, my friend, have created patterns over the past series of years to get exactly where you are in this life.
Mm.
And you, while you try to change, it'll be exciting for a week, you know, all the people that go to the gym for the first week of the year. Well, come week 3, week 4, your body's going to say, and your mind's going to say, hey, yo, wait, we're doing different things still. Nope, let's sabotage this. So you need objective accountability in your life that is going to say, hey, I know this shit's going to happen. I get it. I've been there. This is what I do. Course correct. Let's come back to what we said that we wanted. We have to have a North Star. When you have a North Star, something that you're working toward that is quantifiable, I don't care if you feel like it. I don't care if it makes sense right now. I don't care if you believe it right now. Yeah. But if you speak it every day and you follow those words up with action, your feelings will follow.
Yeah. Love that. Super real. I'm curious, like, let's say someone's listening to this.
Yeah.
And they're going, could have never invested a dime in myself. And
yeah.
You know, like they're the type of person that, like, maybe they'll read the book, maybe they'll listen to the podcast, but when it comes to, like, monetarily, like, investing in themselves,
sure,
they kind of halt. Like, what advice would you have on helping them shift that perspective towards, like, honestly seeing, like, the power of investing in yourself?
Yeah. I mean, the greatest gift that we can give ourselves is self-belief, right? And for some of us, forgiveness, empathy for ourselves. Some of us walk around with far too much frustration and apathy and self-hatred for ways in which we were raised and patterns and habits that we've created that we never asked for. So for one, it's to recognize that a different life is possible, that the dreams that are placed inside of you, they exist there for a reason. And the only reason that you believe that you can't have them or you can't do them and that that's not for you, it's a story that you're telling yourself. Just like the story that you tell yourself about why you can't invest with yourself because nobody in your family has ever done it outside of college, which is becoming a piece of paper that may or may not serve you, but for sure creates a ton of debt.
Yeah.
But what if you could create a scenario, a transaction where someone could walk alongside you that has done and is doing exactly what it is that you want to do with your life? That somehow in some way has found a set of keys to unlock the mysteries of not only why you are the way that you are, but why you show up the way that you do, why you do the dumb shit that you do every single day that you blame everyone else for it. And then you get so frustrated about, because it's like, you know, you don't want to do these stupid things, but you do them anyway. And then you get so frustrated by it.
Yeah.
And you look at your friends or you look at people on the internet and you think, God, if I could just be like that. Only recognizing the truth that you already are. You just haven't unlocked it yet. You just don't believe it. It's just a story. They're just telling themselves a different story. So the story that you have never invested in yourself. Okay, cool. That's where we all start. What does investing look like? What does that transaction look like?
Yeah.
Does it look like a course? Does it look like a coach? Does it look like group coaching? Does it look like an event? Right. First, deciding what you want. And then getting clear on, okay, well, what is the pathway to helping me get there? And it might take getting on calls with some people to figure out what that might be.
Yeah.
It might be jumping into an opportunity that Stu has. It might be jumping into a group or a community that he has, or following him on social media so that you can get in his kind of sphere and bubble to see, okay, well, what's he doing? What's he listening to? What's he reading? Because maybe I'll go buy that book and that's where I'll start. Right. But eventually, you know, you're going to have the conversation with Stu, because if you want what he has, then you're going to have to make the jump of saying, okay, if I want what I've never had, I have to do what I've never done. And I understand that I've never even thought about investing in someone to mentor me. But Stu talks about it all the time. And Stu says he has mentors and coaches, and he's where I want to be. And I don't think he would bullshit me, because I can look back at his track record and he is who he says he is. So this isn't a story that I'm telling myself about Stu. This is a story that I'm telling myself about me. So this is a question of why I don't think I'm worth it. Where did I hear that story? Is it true? Remember, come back to the questions.
Yeah.
Is it really true? What evidence do I have that it's true? What evidence do I have that it's not true? Is this the story that I want to live out? No? Then what's the desired story? Okay, well, now that you have the desired story, will doing what you've done get you to where you want to go? No. Will talking to Stu get you to where you want to go? Yes. Which outcome do you want? Well, I want the desired outcome. Well, then it looks like you're going to have to muster up the courage and get your happy ass on over and message Stu. That's how it starts. It starts with the decision to say, I want what I've never had, so I'm going to have to get really uncomfortable and honest and do things that I've never done before.
Yeah. Dang. Super real. Love that. Awesome. And so, you know, Cody, for people that want to check out what you're up to, see what you got going, I know you're not doing a lot with like Embrace the Lion, everything you're up to. Where's the best place for people to find more stuff on you? Yeah,
you can just, you can find me on social media. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. It's just my name, Cody Jefferson. Yeah. You can find me at codyjefferson.com. That would be the easiest place to find me. You can find me on LinkedIn, right? So. So just all the normal channels, man. And listen, I'm a guy who gets to do extraordinary things every single day. I have the opportunity to lead over 15,000 men and women every single week in different group coaching capacities. And I'm a normal guy that lives in Oklahoma with 3 kids, 4 French bulldogs, an amazing wife, and a few Harleys. Please shoot me a message. Would just love to, you know, I think we're all on a journey of telling better stories, but it starts with knowing yours. So shoot me a message. Tell me your story.
Love that. And so last question I asked Cody, this is for, you know, everyone that comes on the podcast is, all right, obviously we can agree people want to find direction. The ultimate way to do it is through action, right? So if there's one thing you could tell someone listening to this to do in the next 24 to 48 hours to start finding direction in their life, what would be that one piece of advice you would give someone?
Sit down. Sit down, take out a blank piece of paper, and think to yourself, if money was no option, if the stories in my head were no option, Where would I want to be 1 year from now? What would I want life to be like? What would I want it to look like? If you're married, what do you want that relationship to look like? What do you want your body to look like? How do you want to feel? Where do you want to be? Write it down. Get as specific as possible. I'm talking like how you wake up, what foot you put down first, what music is on the alarm that wakes you up. If an alarm wakes you up, do you make coffee? What's it smell like? Do you put anything in it? Are you walking out on a balcony? Are you walking out to the woods? Are you walking out to the city? What are you doing with your day? Who are you serving? Who are you coming in contact with? Right? Because a year from now, we're going to come in contact with people again, guys, I promise. Like, what does it look like when you go to sleep? What are you doing with your family? Yeah. The clearer you can get that vision, if you can see it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. Because when we can create quantifiable objectives, meaning we can measure them, right? I can measure how in shape I can measure my fitness, right? How in shape I am. I can measure the success of my business through metrics, right? Through P&Ls, through my bank account, right? Through churn rates. I can measure that. I can measure the success of my marriage by the intimacy, by the closeness of my partner. I can measure the intimacy that I have with whatever it is I'm connected to spiritually. So when you define what that looks like for you, then we break it down into what's measurable. But it first starts with a vision. So if I were you, what I would do is I would take down a piece of paper and I would write down, where do I want to be? Hell, you could write down, where do I want to be at the beginning of 2021, 6 months from now? Yeah. And then from there, say, okay, well, if I want to start living that today, not 6 months from now, what changes do I need to make? What habits do I need to create? What needs to die in me to become the man or woman that I said I'd be?
Yeah. Love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cody. It's been an honor to have you on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.